Hi, my name is Sebastian Bouchard, and this is Geography 111, my final project titled Reasons to Choose Hemp, a sustainably renewable resource for a circular economy. What is a circular economy? The simplest definition I could find here is a circular economy reuses materials as long as possible, shares resources, designs out waste, and regenerates natural systems. So, for the most part, we'll be going over a little bit of reuses materials as long as possible. I did find a paper about uh, a comparison between wood pulp and hemp pulp paper and its recyclability. It basically listed hemp as more recyclable, so it could recycle 7 to 8 times as opposed to 3 times. Sharing resources, we won't go over so much. It's probably an entire project in itself. Designs out waste. So, designs out waste from a manufacturer point of view. Um, so, in the processing and with the end product. This means there needs to be incentives for manufacturers to build products that last longer. Um, and I think shared resources is one of those things because it has to do with intellectual property. But regenerating natural systems is another huge one that we'll be going over. That's my favorite part of hemp, basically, industrial hemp. It it regenerates natural systems or helps. It's often used as a cover crop, but we'll get into that later. Anyways, moving on. As a preamble, I wanted to go over climate change a little bit. It's probably a bit redundant, seeing as it's a climate change class, pretty much. However, it's kind of a segue into hemp's carbon sequestration abilities. So, um, the one thing that's agreed upon is that the Earth has increased about 1 degree surface level temperature since industrialization, and increased attention to greenhouse gases has provided added academic attention to efficient carbon sequestering crops such as hemp and bamboo. So the difference between hemp and bamboo is bamboo requires more chemicals in its processing and is generally seen as less sustainable. However, it does sequester carbon very fast. And it has multiple end uses, just like hemp. However, like I said, it isn't a zero waste crop, which we'll get into later. Hemp is, though. Hemp can be utilized through and through without any harmful byproducts or residues. Hemp's carbon sequestration abilities. Hemp grows really fast. In fact, it's renowned upon as a weed. Um, 1 hectare of hemp sequesters 10 to 22 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare per year using photosynthesis. So 10 to 22 tons, that includes areas that can have 2 crops in a year. Due to it being a 4 month crop, it takes 4 months to mature. Some places can have 2 crops in a year and sometimes grow another crop within the remainder of the year, depending on the situation. To compare, most commercial cereal crops only sequester 1 ton of carbon dioxide per hectare per year. That was some data I pulled off the internet. I think it was just Google. If 25% of global dairy and livestock land was used to grow hemp, this would close the UN emissions gap of 23 gigatons of carbon dioxide annually, which is pretty, well, it's a nice dream to think that we could close emissions gaps of 23 gigatons of carbon dioxide annually with hemp. But basically that's a plantation the size of Mexico. So I don't think it'll be happening anytime soon. And that's all I have to say about that. I just wanted to go over hemp's zero waste crop aptitudes. Hemp has the potential to be a zero waste crop, which means every part of the plant can be utilized without any waste or harmful byproducts. Hemp's strong fibers are also known to be more recyclable than other materials, such as traditional wood pulp. For instance, hemp paper can be recycled 7 to 8 times, whereas wood pulp can only be recycled 3 times. This means that not only is the material more renewable than trees, because it matures every 4 months, it's also more recyclable, which baffles me as to why we don't use more of it. I think globally we're still at 90% wood pulp paper usage, and only 10% non-woody stock plant paper usage. Man, that's complex. Anyways, let's move on. So now that we've discussed how hemp is a zero waste crop, I wanted to go over the hemp plant parts and some of their end uses. So this diagram here doesn't show the stalk, but the stalk can be split into fiber and hurd. Traditionally, this is what hemp was grown for. It was grown for the fiber. The fiber was extracted and used for paper, all sorts of other things. Typically textiles were common as well for hemp clothing, but I think paper was the most common. And diapers. The hemp fiber actually has an aseptic quality, which makes it perfect for diapers, which I found kind of interesting. Next, we have hurd, which is the agro waste of fiber extraction. It's a shame to call it an agro waste, though, because it has many end uses of its own, such as cat litter, animal bedding, which my aunt just bought due to its dust-free aptitudes. Paper, it actually still has more cellulose than wood pulp, so you can make paper out of it. And my favorite one is hempcrete. There's actually a building at UBC built out of hempcrete. Well, it's one of its components, and they were able to reduce carbon emissions by 80% based on their construction material decisions, and that I found kind of interesting. Next, we have flower and leaves. Flower and leaves are both typically used for CBD oil, which is like a pharmaceutical. You can produce other things with it. Seeds are pretty dynamic. Not only can they be used as a biofuel, but they can be used as a food. And not only can they be used as a human food, but they can also be used as an animal food. So they're a source of protein, and cows can eat them without affecting the milk, which is kind of interesting. They can also use seeds for personal care items such as shampoos or soaps, cosmetics and lotions, or technical fluids. I'm not sure if the technical fluids require a chemical process that isn't good for the environment or the people handling the chemicals, but yep, technical fluids as well. And finally, we have roots. Roots are good for the soil. They reduce soil erosion, prevent desertification, um, and generally improve soil health. So, yeah, that's about it there. Next, we have hemp soil remediation qualities. Hemp has a natural ability to shade out weeds and fight off pests, preventing the need for herbicides and pesticides. Not only is this good to improve soil health, it also prevents water pollution, which you don't want. Also, hemp's deep root system not only enriches the soil with carbon, but also pulls metals such as lead and cadmium from the soil. So one study showed that up to 90% of lead could be pulled from the soil within the first growing season. Um, Obviously, they're controlling the contamination, so they're contaminating the soil purposely to get these results. Yeah, 90%, 50% of cadmium can be pulled from the soil within the first growing season. And the process of using special plants to remove toxins from soils is called phytoremediation. Contaminated hemp can still be utilized to produce biofuel or construction materials, but must be handled carefully to prevent potential toxic elements from contaminating other locations. So, one thing I read about is that it can still be used in hempcrete, which is one of my favorite new construction materials that I've learned about. All right, next slide. Next, we have de-desertification. There isn't much I could find on de-desertification specifically, but there was a bunch of stuff I could find on soil erosion prevention. Due to low water to biomass yield and resiliency during mild droughts, hemp is perfect for preventing soil erosion in areas suffering from desertification caused by deforestation and overfarming. Often used as a cover crop in a crop rotation to prevent soil erosion, hemp's root systems are known to enrich the soil with carbon while removing metal contamination from the soil, with no need for pesticides or herbicides. Hemp requires 3 to 5 times less irrigation than cotton, one of its fiber production competitors. And final note here is replacing cotton with hemp could reduce droughts and improve soil health while preventing desertification. For this final slide, I decided to see how we could link some of the UN SDGs to hemp. And I focused on SDG 13 and 15, although there were more that related. These were the two most relevant. SDG 13 involves taking urgent action on climate change and its impacts. And we've discussed how hemp works as a carbon sink and thereby reduces greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. SDG 15 involves protecting, restoring, and promoting sustainability of terrestrial ecosystems by fighting desertification, promoting biodiversity, etc. So hemp applies to both of these SDGs. Other SDGs include closing water loops. It also works as a food. So while you're growing, it's a multi-purpose crop. So when you're growing hemp for fiber, you can also use the seeds for food. So this could reduce hunger in areas suffering from desertification in some capacity by providing a protein source. And yeah, that concludes my my presentation. I hope that works out for us. Thank you for listening, and it was a nice class. I enjoyed it. Thank you.